President Park Geun-hye calls for joint efforts for shared growth among advanced and emerging nations at the G20 Summit in Russia. New developments in the probe of UPP lawmaker Lee Seok-gi, a member of his revolutionary organization, had files showing how to make pressure cooker bombs stored in his computer. And we get our first glimpse into the strange and wonderful world of the volcanic Heaven Lake on Mount Baekdu. Exotic aquatic plants and fish there caught on camera for the first time. Hello and welcome to News Today on KBS World. It's Friday, September 6. I'm Luke Clary. Speaking at the Group of 20 Summit in Russia, President Park Geun-hye has called for concerted efforts of advanced and emerging economies to achieve joint growth. She especially urged that developed nations be prudent when altering their monetary policies in consideration of the effect on emerging countries.
The summit of the Group of 20 major economies opened in St. Petersburg as the host country's Russian President Vladimir Putin greeted each arriving world leader. On the first day, President Park Geun-hye called for policy coordination under a sense of community, emphasizing that emerging and advanced economies are in the same boat. For this, she proposed 3 policy directions: strengthening the crisis response system in the global financial market, having the G20 pursue joint fiscal strategies, and efforts on structural reform and trade liberalization. Regarding the U.S. move to taper its quantitative easing, Park urged advanced countries to be more careful about changing their monetary policies, taking into consideration its effect on emerging markets.
그거에 대해서 브라질이나 터키, 인도 등 많은 신흥국들이 여기에 동조를 했고, 특이하게는 독일도 여기에 동조를 좀 했습니다.
She also promised that Korea would contribute to human resources and infrastructure development in emerging economies based on Korea's own experience. During the summit's working dinner meeting, leaders discussed the development agenda and the crisis in Syria. For the summit's second day, President Park is scheduled to give a lead speech stressing efforts on job creation.
The United States has announced that Syria and North Korea could have worked together on developing chemical weapons. The issue also topped the agenda of the U.S. Japan Summit, which was held on the sidelines of the G20 Summit.
The U.S. Defense Department says North Korea and Syria might have cooperated in developing chemical weapons. It said that though no specific evidence was at hand, the possibility of the two countries exchanging information on chemical weapons cannot be ruled out, as they already did that in the past.
There has been a relationship and an exchange of information between the North Koreans and the Syrian regime for some time.
The Defense Department added that this issue was also discussed at the defense ministerial talks between South Korea and the U.S. last week. North Korea and Syria also topped the agenda of the U.S. Japan Summit, which was held on the sidelines of the G20 Summit in Russia. Prior to the meeting, U.S. President Barack Obama said that security issues surrounding the Korean peninsula would be the salient points of the talks.
Our continued concerns about the nuclearization of the Korean Peninsula and the importance of North Korea abiding by international law.
The U.S. and Japanese leaders stressed that South Korea, the United States, and Japan must cooperate closely for the denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula.
New developments regarding Unified Progressive Party lawmaker Lee Seok-gi, who at a convention in May mentioned the use of a pressure cooker bomb in the Boston Marathon attack earlier this year. This is raising alarms as it was discovered that a member of his so-called revolutionary organization actually had files showing how to make homemade bombs stored on his computer.
During the seize and search on revolutionary organization members on August 28th, the National Intelligence Service found homemade bomb-making instruction files on the computer of Kim Hong-yeol, chief of the UPP branch in Gyeonggi Province. The file was stored inside a folder labeled Health Facts. The file names were nitroglycerine, nitrocellulose, potassium nitrate, and dry ice. These are the chemicals commonly used for making homemade bombs stemming from their explosive power. Each file contained specific steps of making the deadly devices. The ingredients and preparations for each material were written down in detail. The NIS added that the file titled nitrocellulose had words including homemade bombs that are easiest to make. Yi Sang-ho, advisor to the Gyeonggi Progressive Alliance, who was arrested, reportedly searched the sites of the Korea Gas Corporation and the Korea Electric Power Corporation using his smartphone more than 10 times. At the party convention in May, Yi had stated that in war situations, all communications and railroads must be blocked and the supply of oil cut. The National Intelligence Service is focusing investigations on how these pieces of evidence correlate to the alleged rebellion conspiracy.
Korea's university enrollment rate has hit its lowest level in 11 years. More and more young Koreans are choosing to start their careers straight out of high school graduation rather than going off to college.
This high school provides intensive business and industrial training. 70% of its students who are to graduate next year have already landed jobs.
공기업에 취업이 된 상태고 지금 졸업이 좀 남았는데 졸업한 후에 이제 입사를 하면 인턴 기간을 거쳐서 이제 정식 사원이 되는.
The employment rate of high school graduates dropped steadily after 2005, but began to rise again last year to exceed 30%. As a result, more high school graduates opt to work instead of pursuing higher education. This year, the college enrollment rate among high school graduates plunged to 70%, which is the lowest level in 11 years. The rate has been on decline for 4 consecutive years now.
취업난이다 뭐다 해가지고 대학을 나왔음에도 불구하고 이렇게 취직 못하는 경우도 많고 자기만의 이렇게 목표를 이루지 못하는 경우가 많은 것 같아서.
But some say that such a trend is temporary because few high school graduates manage to keep their jobs in the long run. The academic sector is urging the government to expand support to workers with high school degrees.
Shipments of agricultural produce are in full swing with the Chuseok holiday just 2 weeks away. Shipping companies are being bombarded with orders for Chuseok-related items.
A large rice mill works non-stop. It's polishing newly harvested rice for the Chuseok holiday. Freshly packed rice is transported to supermarket chains immediately. A massive amount is also waiting to be shipped in parcels. This company is expecting to ship around 200 tons of newly harvested rice ahead of Chuseok. Its staff is working overtime starting this week to meet the deadline.
추석 전에 그 소비자 식탁에 올라야 하는 그 햅쌀이라서 특성상 지금 비상근무 체제에 지금 돌입되어 있는 상태입니다.
Workers at this company have their hands full sorting out apples according to size. It received many orders this year because the apple harvest was plentiful. Their prices are over 10% cheaper. The company has prepared double the amount of apples compared with the autumn holiday period last year. Farmers are also excited to finally sell their produce after investing much effort in growing it. Peach farmers look happy while transporting their just harvested fruits.
상대적으로 복숭아 가격이 상당히 높은 가격을 지금 유지하고 있고 농협을 통해서 많이 출하를 하고 가격도 많이 받고 해서 금년에는 흐뭇합니다.
Shipments of the new harvest are in full swing ahead of the full moon harvest holiday.
With the summer season in its twilight, beaches across Korea are now closed until next year. But some holidaymakers are still hitting the beach, even though most lifeguards have gone home for the season.
This beach on Jeju Island officially closed late last month. But even now you can see some 50 people swimming here. When the beach was closed, all the safety equipment such as water depth markers were removed. You can also find few lifeguards on the beach. The situation is the same on other beaches. People swim in deep waters without wearing life jackets. There's no way for local governments and the Coast Guard to stop the public from swimming because the beaches are officially closed. The Korea Coast Guard dispatched 2 lifeguards to each major beach across the country to prepare for emergencies. But that's not enough to keep tabs on dozens and even hundreds of swimmers.
물놀이 안전사고 위험이 높기 때문에 물놀이를 삼가해 주시거나 안전관리요원 근처 또는 수심이 얕은 곳에서 물놀이를 즐겨주시기를 당부드립니다.
Beach authorities nationwide have a hard time preventing drowning accidents as people continue to visit beaches because of the hot weather.
Researchers have deployed a robot to the depths of Heaven Lake in Mount Baekdu, recovering the first ever underwater footage taken there. We get our first glimpse into the strange and wonderful underwater world of this volcanic lake.
The picturesque Heaven Lake of Mount Baekdu fascinates visitors. You can see bubbles produced by carbon dioxide at the bottom of the lake rising up to the water surface. This means that the volcano is still active. This footage was taped by a robot that was placed in the lake by scholars from several countries, including China. The footage shows unknown aquatic plants growing in the lake's shallow parts and even small fish swimming in 10 degrees Celsius waters. Celadon that was either lost or left in the lake by tourists is half buried in the volcanic ash and mud.
湖底的一些状态和它底下是什么东西，另外呢，在这个水底下还能看到一些小的生物，对吧？个别还有一点小的水草这类东西。
The scholars also found that the area surrounding the lake and measuring 20 kilometers in radius is also covered with up to 20 centimeters thick volcanic ash. This was formed when the volcano erupted in the mid-10th century. The scholars also concluded that the possibility of another eruption in the near future is unlikely because it will take the volcano 3,000 to 5,000 years to accumulate enough energy to do so.
In showbiz, the movie Hide and Seek has outperformed its rival Memories of Murder to become the top thriller in Korea. Here's more from the world of culture.
The movie Hide and Seek is a story about a stranger intruding in a family house. Hide and Seek drew over 5.2 million viewers, surpassing Memories of Murder and topping the ranks of domestic thrillers. The movie's production company says the movie touched viewers' hearts because of the roller coaster of emotions that they experienced while watching it, and because it deals with the subject of owning a home, which is an acute social issue in Korea these days. Comedian Lee Bong-won injured his face during the shoot of a TV show about a diving competition. Sources say Lee suffered a facial bone fracture and had to quit the show eventually.
A growing number of drivers are putting the cleanliness of their cars into their own hands. As hand-washing cars grows in popularity, some enthusiasts have even set up their own club to talk about their experiences and share tips.
Cars come in lining up late into the evening. You might be thinking this is some sort of parking lot, but it's not. Who are these people? The car's trunks are loaded with all kinds of cleaning tools. There's even lighting equipment, ladders, and tables. This self-car washing club has some 60,000 members across the nation. They get together from time to time to share their tips. Even the child you see here is a fan of hand car washing.
6살부터 11살까지 4년 됐어요. 세차하려고. 아빠 좀 땡깡 부려서 아빠랑 같이 많이 오는 것 같아요. 집은 별로 안 닦아요. 차를 많이 닦는 거죠.
When it comes to washing their own vehicles, these people make sure to make the entire process special. They use special towels for each part of their cars.
붉게 닦는 용. 요거는 유리 전용 타올. 필이라든지 좀 지저분해지고 닦을 수 있는 그런 일반적인 막타올.
They can also fix their vehicles when they break down. They even remove scratches using car wax. They say they prefer washing their automobiles directly themselves, even though it takes a lot of time and is more expensive. The reason?
한 3년 됐는데도 새 차 같아. 그런 얘기를 들을 때 너무 좋죠. 행복해지죠. 이걸로 뭐 힐링한다고 하나? 네, 제 스스로 기분이 좋아지니까.
Such meticulous car washing techniques is known as detailing. We met with one such expert. Na Chong-yeol has been washing his ride manually for more than 10 years now. One of the rooms in his house is packed with car wash supplies.
다 세차할 때 쓰는 용품들인데요. 하나둘 모으다 보니까 어느 정도 이렇게 많이 모였네요. 한 100가지는 좀 넘는 것 같아요.
Here's his tips on how to wash your car. First, high-pressure water is sprinkled onto the vehicle. Na knows how to do it with ease. Now it's time to apply some foam, making it almost look as if it's covered in snow.
이제 시작이에요. 지금 거품을 뿌려놓고 거품이 흘러내리면서 이물질들을 안고 떨어질 수 있게 지금 시간을 두고 기다리고 있는 중이에요.
Now the car is shampooed using not an ordinary but a special towel.
양모로 제작돼 있어가지고 좀 부드러워서 차량 도장면에 스트레스를 덜 주는 거죠.
It's not over yet. If you rub the surface of your car using a plastic sheet, you will find lots of dust particles here and there. To remove them, it's best to use some clay. Na manually applies the wax and wipes down each rim and tire.
평소에는 뭐 여유 있게 하면 한 5시간도 할 때도 있고요. 오늘은 좀 빨리 끝나서 3시간 만에 끝난 것 같아요.
Now the car is sparkling clean, but this can only be achieved with a sense of dedication like none other.
저녁에 운동 삼아서 운동도 될 수 있고 그 다음에 이게 하나하나 하다 보니까 모든 취미생활이 그렇듯이 점점 하다 보니까 빠져들 수밖에 없는 매력이 있는 것 같아요.
The number of car detailing fans is over 100,000 in Korea, and they all seem to be upbeat about their unique and exciting hobby.
Now we'll take a look at the markets, followed by the world weather. And that's it for this edition of News Today. We'll see you at the same time next week. Have a great weekend.